3, 2, 1.
Welcome to HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, a show where we interview industry leaders and disruptors, revealing the success secrets to create and unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Now your hosts, Thaddeus and Evan.
Hey, welcome back to another HVAC Success Secrets Revealed with Thaddeus and Evan, where we have good conversations with good people, and any good conversation worth having is worth having drunk. So welcome, Kathy, to the show. So grateful to have you on the show today with us. We appreciate you taking the time to sit back and chill with some crazy Canadians and drink some wine and have some good conversation.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
No worries. So Kathy Nielsen is the voice that you just heard. She is the owner and consultant of, Chicken Lady Speaks is the name of the business. And she is a business operations and CSR expert. And the thing I love, and she mentioned this right before the show, is she even talked about knowing about staying in your lane and knowing what you're good at and being really, really good at it. And Kathy is one of the best. She went from being a CSR to then an office manager, where she helped grow an HVAC business up to $6 million per year in annual revenue. And she really dove in deep into the business operations. She understands Service Titan. She understands how it is that you need to get a business rocking and rolling from an efficiency standpoint. And I am super excited to get into this conversation, because I don't think enough people pay attention to the top of the funnel and what it is that they can do to really improve the results at the bottom of the funnel when it comes to their business. And it really starts with that CSR and interacting with the customer. So thank you so much for joining us, Kathy.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And just to clarify a little bit on that one, I've been in all those seats. So CSR, dispatcher, office manager. On that particular company, I was a GM. And so really, that's why I was so into the operations, because it was small when I began and we grew it and just wore a lot of hats.
Totally. No, thank you for clarifying that. So, well, why don't you walk us through that journey then, and how it is that you got into the trades? Because I know you started in manufacturing, and what was it about the trades that really attracted you to it?
Well, for me, I started in the trades or in manufacturing right out of college. It was a hunting and shooting trade. So again, a very kind of male dominated area. I born and raised in Iowa, and my dad always said, if you didn't go hunting, you're going to stay home alone. So, I did that. And then I worked for a manufacturer in inventory control. And when that company got sold and it was time to move on, I really was looking for someplace that I could affect change. Because in manufacturing, I can go out to the floor and affect change. I can't do that in retail. That's not my gig if I can't really help them. So I kind of put the word out, and I was involved in a youth hunt that I started. And so we did 60 kids. We did this big youth hunt. And I had a heating and cooling company approach me and said, we know your organizational skills. We know what you do. We'd like you to be on board. So I started out as a CSR with them and dispatcher. And then another company approached me to be their GM. So I've just really did a lot of those. And that was when they approached me, it was a place I could affect change, because in the service industry, the goal is amazing customer service. So I can change that. I can make that better. Mm-hmm. I can, make it a better thing for the customers. So that's really how I got into the trades. And I happened to be married to a tech, because I got him in the trades when we got together, and I moved him to Iowa. I called a friend that owned a heating and cooling company and asked him to hire my boyfriend. So he's a refrigeration tech, commercial refrigeration tech. So we just
nice.
Are kind of submerged in it, and I love the industry. I love what I do.
Well, and I also assume that you're now that you're out of Iowa. Are you back in Iowa?
So from Iowa, when I tried to buy that company, and then two of my technicians bought it, and so a year and a half later, they eliminated my position. So I put the word out again. I'm pretty known in the industry, and I had a plumbing company in Texas asked me to come there. So I actually lived in a camper behind the plumbing shop for a year. Nice. Yeah, and while I decided if that was a place for me to move my family, and then I decided it wasn't, so I hooked up my camper and I drove home. And during that time, I had a lot of people asking me for help, and so I just started helping them nights and weekends because I'm in a camper by myself. So I started doing that, and then I really intended to build a job. That was my goal. I wanted a job that made like 150,000 a year, and now almost 6 years later, 5.5 years later, I have 6.5 employees and, doing a crazy amount of business. So
Stumbled into a business.
I did. I created a job. I intended to make a job and I created a business. And I really I am the person that would never work for themselves. I had no intention of working for myself until I tried to buy the heating and cooling company. And so it's kind of ironic.
It's funny because you mentioned that, and I know that a lot of guys that start businesses, they're tech turned owner, and they're like, well, I want to be able to do it for myself, and they find themselves in this realm of, well, shit. Now I'm running a business. I was actually having a conversation with somebody today about that, and his marketing, and he's like, yeah, he's like, it's amazing that I started this business and it turns out that it's a lot harder than I thought. And I need to get, some help on that. But it's also a realization too, right? I mean, it's a good realization to have that it is a lot of work to be able to do that. So having that same sort of experience coming from, okay, I want to just have myself a job, start a business, have myself a job, to turning it actually into a business. If there's a tech out there or a new business owner who had the same mentality, what advice would you tell them?
Well, I think the shift from tech to manager is a mental shift, right? So I see it all the time where they take a really great tech and they make him a service manager and he fails because he can't make that mental shift because it's different. My husband and I, before he was a manager, used to have the same arguments about it because he's looking at it from a tech perspective. And it has to be fair. It has to be fair to the tech and fair to the company. So I think first advice is get leadership training. And it's one of the reasons I brought on that training piece for that middle management, because we're natural leaders, but we're not naturally schooled in what words we use and how we have those conversations and that. So first off, get that leadership training. Don't be afraid to say you don't know. The second thing I see on a lot of techs turned business owners is they don't know how to read financials. A lot of technicians feel like companies overcharge because for them, it's no big deal, right? Yep. It's no big deal. I just did this. It's no big deal. But you have training and education and licensing and everything. So you need to charge for it. And when I'm talking to technicians or owners, and I'll say, okay, if you had a choice between two Sawzalls to buy, which one would you pick? And the guy that says the cheapest, he's the guy that doesn't value what he does, right? My husband would buy a Milwaukee because all his batteries are Milwaukee. He doesn't care what the price is. He's not going to have a random odd thing that doesn't fit. So I think as a tech turned business owner, you have to really think about, what education do I need? Don't think you know it all. A lot of them are not great at business and they need that education. Some of them really need to consider staying. They say, well, I'm really good in the truck and I love it. That's okay. Hire somebody to run your business that's really good at it, and you just stay on top of it. Schedule meetings, have conversations, look at the numbers. So that's it's kind of one of my soapboxes, if you didn't notice. But I'm really passionate about that. Just know what you're not good at. And if you want to be that, then get training and education on it. But it's okay. If you're not wired to know that, it takes a lot of energy to work on your blind spots. And who wants to use that much energy day in, day out to do things they're not wired for? It's no fun.
No. Sorry, go ahead, Evan.
Well, I was just going to say that's where it takes a fine balance of knowing what it is that you're really good at and also knowing what it is that lights you up. because when it naturally feels really great to do something, it's a lot easier to get yourself to try and do it, even when it's an aspect of that is really mundane and boring and laborious.
Yes.
Right. But when it's something that's really, it lights a fire under your ass, you're just super passionate about it. It keeps you up at night. It's, you know, the last thing you think about when you go to bed, the first thing you think about when you wake up. That's the kind of thing that's going to pull you towards success in that area. Right.
Absolutely.
And this is where I think of push versus pull, right? If you're constantly having to push yourself to do something, that's not something that lights you up, right? That's the shit you need to delegate, and you need to hire, and you need to surround yourself with people that are really good at that. So when it comes to that aspect of hiring the right people and finding the right people, how is it that when you are running the business as a general manager, but also how is it that you encourage your clients to hire and find the right people, get the right people in the right seats on the bus, so to speak, and ensure that their strengths are playing to that role?
Well, I see a lot of people, they want to hire people like them, right? Because we love to be surrounded by us. And I was just having this conversation with one of my clients the other day. And so first off, you have to know what you're getting. You can have an interview, but if people are smart, they study for an interview. They're going to answer how they think you want to hear it, because why would you not study to get a job that you want? So I'm a big proponent of assessments. The one I particularly use and love, and I'm certified in, is the Intermetrics, because it shows all three pieces. It tells how you do what you do, why you do what you do, and what you do. So like that gut kind of moral compass. And so I had a client, they had a service manager failing. I said, let's look at their assessment. His two biggest blind spots were personal accountability and accountability for others. So I worked with him and I said, okay, let's put some of that in place to do that. Well, then he chose not to use the tools. That you just needed, he needed to be on a different seat in the bus or off the bus. He shouldn't have been put there in the first place.
Right.
But they're the type of people that love, they love relationships, which I'm a big relationship person too, but they tend to get excited about the person first. And you really got to look at some kind of raw data, and you need to know what you're getting. And is that a good fit before you take it further?
So how do you do that? So like we talk, the right seat on the bus, and you look at the book Good to Great, and that's what he talks about, is getting the right people on the right seat on the bus to be able to move it forward. And that's where this concept, I mean, I'm sure it comes from other places. That's where I've heard about it, is in that book. But so if you're hiring somebody, I mean, and there's always going to be a bad mistake, hiring mistake here and there. You're never going to be able to 100% avoid it. But if you can mitigate that, you can have a power in your organization. So when you're going through this hiring process, what are you looking for in order to be able to determine you have the right seat, or the right person for the right seat?
Well, I think first you have to decide, what does that person look like? And I like to use adjectives, right? So if I'm a dispatcher, if I'm looking for a dispatcher, I want them to be very organized. I want them to be able to multitask, which is, a whole nother definition. I don't need them to be necessarily money motivated, because it may not be a position that they can affect their own pay. So I first look at, what kind of motivators do I want? What kind of behaviors am I looking for? And then like I said, I use Intermetrics. There's other tools out there, but I want a tool to measure that. Because if I ask them and I say, Evan, are you a multitasker? You're going to go, yes, I am, or Dad, how do you feel about working on a team? It's great. You may hate working on a team, but you're not going to tell me that in an interview. Right?
You're going to say the answers that you think that the person on the other side of the desk wants to hear.
Right. Like, I know having a dispatcher that is motivated by doing it their way and is passive aggressive does not work for me. I don't work well with that person. Not that they don't have a place, but that their place isn't with me, because it's just not going to end well. So if I assess them and that's what I see, I'm not even going to go to the next step of interviewing them.
Mm-hmm.
So I can also take 150 applications and narrow it down to 12 instantly, and then then have interviews. And it also tells me what questions to ask.
Sure.
Right.
I do want to circle back to the motivators and behaviors part. You know, motivation is a funny thing. It's easy to find motivation when things are going right, but it's not easy to find motivation when things are going wrong. But when you look at hiring motivations, what are some of the common motivators that you see for people? And this is just a general topic, by the way. This doesn't necessarily have to go to hiring individuals. I'm genuinely curious what you think are the biggest motivators for humans.
Well, there's 7 motivators. And so like, I know very clearly I'm motivated by money. I'm motivated by help leading people. Those are my top 2. My lowest, ironically, is altruism, which is helping people, but it just means I'll help people, which I have a hard time saying no. It's why I have an assistant, but I'll help people if there's a return on investment. That could be money. It could be that I got to lead them. It could be that I saw their company grow. So it doesn't mean I won't, but I have to hit a motivator. I'm not going to hand somebody begging on the side of the street money every day and not see a return on that investment.
Makes sense. So money, leading people, altruism. What would you say the other 4 are? Or
They
I guess you know what the other 4 are.
I'm a geek on this stuff. I love it.
I know. I love it.
So it's altruism, money or return on investment, political, which is leading people, altruism, which is helping people, regulatory, which is following the rules, and theoretical, which is learning. So like technicians, generally speaking, their learning is really high. That's a really high motivator for them. My husband, he'll sit and watch YouTube videos on how to scoop out a canoe. He's never going to do that, but he'll sit there and watch videos on how to do it. And I'm not motivated by learning. I learn for application. So if, like, I had a tech, I wanted him to do something and he wasn't getting it. Well, his economic was a 3, but his helping people was a 98. So I said, okay, what if we take these spiffs and we create, tiers that when you get here, you get a half day offer Habitat for Humanity or a community project. Or so you, as business owners, a lot of us assume it's money for everybody because most business owners, most entrepreneurs, it is for them.
Right.
Yep.
I think it has to be to some extent.
Yep.
Otherwise,
absolutely.
it's really difficult to succeed in business.
It can be. I mean, well, I guess money is kind of tied to freedom. Like I would look at that to say, okay, why am I running my business? Well, I want freedom to be able to do the things when I want to, which is essentially you need money in order to be able to do that. I mean, not necessarily, but money is a big part of that. So
Definitely.
Yeah. I like things.
Things are good. Things are fun.
I like trinkets as my wife can. My wife calls my things trinkets on my background, but I call them decorations.
Oh, yeah. Yes. I probably call them other stuff for my husband, which I won't repeat.
It's okay. You can swear if you need to.
Well, he's a technician at heart, so technicians are keepers of stuff. So
I might need this one day. I'm going to keep it in my tickle trunk. And that time will come 7 years down the road. And it'll be like, see, I told you I needed this part in the garage. It came in handy 7 years down the road. So,
right. Well, he's got a 32-foot trailer in our pasture from our house from 3 years ago we moved out of that's full. And I keep telling him every time he's trying to find something, I said, I bet it's in that shit in the red trailer, but man, is our life going to be good when that's empty.
At least it's in a trailer in like I'm assuming like a C-can sort of a thing out in the pasture, and it's not in the garage or not in the basement. So, which is good.
No, it's in the trailer.
Perfect. I want to back up to something that you mentioned in changes in customer service. And that's because you wanted to impact, right? You want to be able to change things. And when I heard that, change for an HVAC business is in the customer service, I think you nailed it. I think there's a lot of businesses that miss the mark when it comes to creating a great customer experience. And when you think about it, there's the people, there's the profits, and then there's the products, right? And those are kind of the three things. And when I look at like the people, I mean, that's also your customers, right? I mean, you don't have a business if you don't have your customers. So I guess in terms of a business looking to change their customer service, get better at it, make it a great user experience for the people, what would you say would be the first place for them to look and some steps to go in enacting appropriate change to make it better?
Well, 99% of your business starts from a phone call. So if the person answering the phone sucks at it, you're not going to get jobs because they're not going to book it. So a CSR's number one job is to book calls. And I'm such a advocate of getting customer service training because back in the day, we thought customer service, you just need a warm body. You just need someone to answer the phone. It didn't matter if they were good at it. It didn't matter how they talked, what words they used. It matters today. People are, and I think in the last, customer service got really important, and then it kind of went away for a little bit. And I think it's back to that swing where people want great customer service again. They will pay more for something if they have great customer service, and it completely affects the bottom line. You can even get as minute as saying, okay, if this person answers the phone and this technician goes, our revenue is higher than any other combination in the company. Mm-hmm. So those metrics are out there, that data is out there, and people, for whatever reason, don't want their CSRs not to be there to get training, or they don't want to spend the money on them. They don't see the value. And I don't know how to overcome that. I wish I did, because I do CSR boot camps, and every one of them, when we're done, people are excited. They enjoy it. They learn something. I go to a show, I'll have people come up and go, I still use that. They'll still have pages or verbiage. And so I don't know how to overcome it. It's so important. So an example I always use is if somebody calls my business and maybe they're looking for an electrician, and I do heating and cooling. I never say we don't do electrical. I say we do heating and cooling. If you have any needs for that, we would love to be your provider. For electrical, we suggest XYZ, or I would suggest you ask your friends and neighbors and see who they've used in the past and are happy with. I never use words like don't, won't, can't, or why. Why is parental. But it's just that little twist, but you don't know, that person could say, man, I actually do need some heating and cooling. I didn't know you did that, or if you do multiple businesses, we do heating, cooling, plumbing, electrical, whatever that is, make sure you get that in. People just don't. And it's that little 1% we talked about, that little tweak that can grow your business because people didn't know you did it.
Right. So, sorry, what were those kind of forbidden words again?
Don't, won't, can't, or why.
And so you would recommend any CSR never say those words on the phone?
No, you'll rarely hear me say it, especially why. If you say, well, why would you do that? It's very parental and people instantly get defensive.
Right.
So and that's a great parenting skill too, by the way, because my kids, same thing with kids. It works.
I was just thinking about the toddler when they start going, why?
Totally. That's where I went too.
That's what went through my mind. I'm like, my kid can't talk other than goo goo gaga ma da da da. But I know that there's going to come a time when he's going to say why all the time. And now, like, it's that parental thing. Like, I get it, right? It makes tons of sense when you ask the why. And it can be offensive to some people if you don't phrase it in the right way.
Well, if you have a dispatcher, and let's say they put a call where you didn't want them to, and I go up and I go, why did you put that call light on there?
Defensive.
Right? But if I said, hey, Thad, can you help me understand the reason you put the call on John for this? And then you explain it. And then I have a
Oh, da, 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 da,
teachable
da. Yep.
moment. Yeah.
Yep. Mm. That, by the way, this last couple minutes for any business owner who has somebody, even if you're answering the phones yourself and that's you, go back and re-listen to that of the importance of what she's doing here in terms of the teachable moments to be able to better help your team get better. We see it all the time in the space, that everybody wants to teach on sales. Sales is the big driver, and everybody's loud with the sales teaching, where something as simple as taking your CSRs and giving them additional training such as this is massively impactful. I'm almost, maybe Kathy, you might know the answer to this question, and maybe some of the individuals that are listening can also chime in. How often do you call back into your business and pretend that you're a customer?
Right? Secret shopping.
Right?
We did it to our competitors all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And people think they don't do that, or they don't take the time to, again, when they hear something, hear something, say something, right? So if you hear it, don't go plowing in there while they're on the phone and go, no, tell them this. We've all done that. But as a CSR, it's so distracting, and it throws you off your game. So wait till the call's done, then ask them how they feel they could have said that different. And then get them to repeat it. I'm one of those weird people that I practice conversations in the car when I'm driving out loud, because I'm auditory, so I got to hear it, right? So I just say it out loud, and I say my scripts out loud, and I practice. If I'm speaking somewhere, I practice it out loud. And so don't go at them while they're in the middle of it.
No,
Give
that's
them
fair.
an opportunity.
It's tough to coach them too, because then they're going to get flustered, right? The one thought that I have, is call recording, and I don't know legalities in your area. Look into that, disclaimer. But one potential teachable moment is to even have some of the call recordings. And Kathy, can you elaborate a little bit in terms of what you guys do? Do you guys encourage call recording and going back and listening to those and having, let's say, a weekly meeting where you pull out some of the calls, and because somebody's listening to them, maybe to be able to say, hey, this was a great example. Hey, this is a bad example. Is that something that you would recommend for a business?
I love it. And, I'll be the first to admit, sitting there listening to phone calls on your team, it's tedious, and it can be really painful. And you do need to have a drink while you do it sometimes. Because, it's brutal.
You won't find me saying anything to the contrary to that.
It is brutal, but it's so important. How can you help them, grow them, teach them if you don't know what they're saying? Or if you only pick out the bad ones? Who wants to come at all the time with all the things they're doing wrong? So I'm a fan of call recording. It's we have a ton of clients on Service Titan, which is one of the great features of that software. There's other softwares that do it. You can get phone systems that do it. I'm a big fan. It's just, you got to make the commitment to use it.
Totally.
Agreed.
Well, and I know with services like CallRail, you can do like keyword tracking and things like that as well, which is really nice. And being able to pull out. That. Yeah, nice. Well, and that was something that we did. I sold engagement rings for a while just to really push myself into an area where I did not believe in the product I was selling, to see if I could still sell it. Turns out conviction's pretty important. But one of the things that they did there, one of the practices was you had to record a sales presentation every single week and upload it. And I always loved that practice, and that's something that I've continued to do now in our organization as well, is constantly looking back at what it is that I did well, what is it that I could have done differently, and just self-coaching. And call recording is massive for that, and being able to role play with the team too. Like you said, right? What could have been done differently to improve the result, right? Not why did you do it this way? And I love that The power of language.
Huge.
This is something that I've given a couple messages on at events and things like that, but I really want to hear from you in your words, the power of language and certain trigger words that you can use to help get more calls booked. What would you say some of those key phrases would be that are really going to help move the needle?
Well, I think one of them is you have to consider everybody's paradigms, right? And so if they're coming at you just wanting price and we don't give price over the phone, a lot of people want to say we don't give price over the phone. Okay. It's our go-to phrase. How else do you say that? That's the one I get most often. But you got to remember the paradigm is probably that somebody screwed them one time for a price, or like they went in for some repair and the person told them they needed all this stuff that they really didn't need. So that's why people are asking quite often, or they're just looking for the cheapest person, which isn't necessarily always our customer. So when they do that, I say, don't say we don't give price over the phone. Say in our experience, because people can argue with your opinion, they can't argue with experience. So in our experience, oftentimes what you think is a problem turns out to be more involved or less involved. We want to be able to give you accurate pricing at the time so you know what fits your and options to fit your budget and needs. So I never said we don't give pricing over the phone, but I gave them a reason that we're not going to, and I gave them a way that they can't argue with it. So that's how I do it.
I love it.
People can argue opinion, but they can't argue experience.
Yes.
That is a great line. And it made me literally think of how can I better argue with my sister when we get together with family get-togethers. So luckily, I don't think she watches this show. So I think I've got a leg up on her on that instead of saying my opinion, my experience.
Perfect. Well, and here's my other two nuggets. I had somebody I saw on one of your Facebook posts that we're going to listen today for a nugget. So here's my nuggets, right? That's a chicken nugget.
That's
right.
a chicken nugget right there. We're going to rephrase to every nugget as a chicken nugget from here on out.
So the other one is there's 3 reasons people don't do something. They don't know how, so you haven't taught them. They aren't capable, physical, mental limitations, or they choose not to. That's it. That's all the reasons. So when your kid when they're old enough to argue with you and they don't clean your room, and you say, help me understand the reason your room isn't clean like you were supposed to. And they go, I chose not to. That's a win for a parent. That's what my kids did, because they had to hear this all their whole lives. So that's my other chicken nugget. And that and the experience thing is compliments of my business coaches from Des Moines, Jennifer at Results Group. They were amazing. And those are the nuggets I learned from them. And I continued to do. Jennifer and Brian were awesome. I worked with them all the time. And then my other favorite one is from, I cannot remember the professor's name, but she's a professor at Texas A&M at Galveston. And she told us a story. She said, and I'm not going to go as detailed and fabulous as she did, but basically there are air problems and water problems. So I use this for people that are running businesses, small businesses, and they're like, I can't ever get things done. Everybody's coming at me. So I tell them the air problem, water problem, and maybe you want to make your problems on a scale 1 to 4. So air problem, water problem is you're on a beach, it's really hot, and you're really thirsty. You need your wine, you need your whiskey, but it's a long walk to get to it, and you don't want to. But you walk up there anyway, and when you finally take that gulp to quench your thirst, like it's forgotten. You forget the journey, right? Oh, air problem is you're chilling in your pool, and some 500-pound human jumps on top of you and won't let you up. That's an air problem. So the ironic thing, again, my kids hear this and they use this. So one day Cass calls me and she goes, oh, Mom, you sound stressed. What's wrong? I'm like, I just got this problem I'm working on. She goes, air problem or water problem? I said, water problem. She goes, let me know how it goes. Because I do that to them. When they call me and go,
Right.
Mom, I got a problem, air problem or water problem? She goes, it's a water problem. I'm like, let me know what you decide and how it turns out. But if it's an air problem, she did it once to us when she was at A&M. I got an air problem. We're like, we'll be in the car.
Yep.
Right away. So if you help your employees do that too, so maybe a 1 is they can decide on themselves. A 2 might be one where they need to talk over with a peer. A 3 might be where they need to go to their manager, and a 4 might be where management needs to have a discussion and a decision. So those are my big chicken nuggets.
I love that. And I'm also really curious. So what happens when you have someone who has, like, you've done your assessments, whether that's DISC, Gallup, or and I was looking for the name of it on here.
Intermetrics.
Intermetrics, thank you. You've gone through that assessment, and you know this person that you're working with just needs that connection. They need to be able to talk out their problems, even when it is an air problem. How is it that you would work with that individual so that you can still be efficient in your organization, but still be able to serve them and make them feel heard and appreciated and respected?
So I think first is because those people are the ones that want the attaboys, right? They want they want that pat on the back. They don't necessarily need monetary. They want recognition. And so whatever the tool is to remind you to do that, then put it in your calendar. I live and die by my calendar. So I'm a calendar person. So I would put it in my calendar. Like I did a 15-minute checkup every month with every employee. And so it was just my 15 minutes to go, hey, what's going on? Man, you did really good the other day, blah, blah, blah. So I think the biggest thing is whatever the tool for you is to do recognition, you just have to do it. Because it doesn't matter if it's important to you, it's important to them.
Right.
And I'm not a hugely empathetic person. Like I'm not a person that takes on others' problems, or if they talk to me about their problem, I don't go, oh, it's not who I am. Right. I'll help you figure out a solution. I'll do everything I can to help you, but I don't take it on.
Right.
And some people really need you to do that. And I just tell them that that's not who I am. And I will help you find that person. Or maybe I hook them with a team member that will do that, or counseling, whatever that is. And I think you just have to really ask the questions and then be willing to do whatever it is for them within your wheelhouse.
Well, and again, that comes back to having a deep understanding of who it is that you are and who it is that your team is, right? And this was something that I heard you mention on another podcast that you had done in the past, where you not only did those assessments within your team, but you then posted them around the office so that everyone knew how to best communicate with each other.
Yeah. That's one of those sheets on the Intermetrics is communication. So we laminated that and stuck it up. The beauty it did for me is I dig work. Like I love paperwork. I'm one of those weird people. And so when I would come
I got a stack sitting over here.
One of my best friends for years, her and I worked together. And then when we quit working together, she'd call me and she'd go, hey, I have a bottle of wine. And I'd go into her office after hours and she'd scoop all her papers and hand them to me and go, here, just fix that.
That's amazing.
That's I just hate paper in general. I want to go digital with everything.
Yeah. I love paperwork. And there's digital paperwork like memberships, dig memberships. They're digital paperwork. So what it did for me is it set in mind that don't chit chat, get right to the point, don't waste my time. Most of my CSRs, because they're all wired the same, said, have a little chit chat, break the ice. So I used to come in and set my stuff down and get to work. And when they would come in and talk to me, I just keep working because I can talk to you and type an email of a totally different conversation. My brain will do that. But what I realized is they think I'm not listening. And so I would come in the morning, I'd set my stuff down, I'd go out there and I'd be like, oh, where'd you go last night? What'd you do? Where'd you eat? At the end of the day, I don't really care. And that sounds really mean, but it's not that I don't care about them. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of my life where they went to eat or what they did. But they're important to me. So that made asking them those questions important to me. Right. And then the beauty is during the day, they came in and didn't ask me questions and chit chat because they saw how I like to communicate. So
I would encourage every single business owner and leader to either it's inner metrics or there's many different ones out there to understand how you communicate in terms of your strengths. It was perhaps, I did one a year and a half ago, I want to say, and it was the Gallup Clifton Strengths Assessment, and we chatted about that before we got on. And from a personal experience, it's the exact same thing. Like I want to get straight to the details and the facts. I'm like, let's just hammer it out and let's figure it out and let's move forward and create a plan for it. And in my previous manager roles, I realized that I would steamroll people. And I would get right over them because that's how I wanted shit to get done, but that's not how they wanted shit to get done. But that's also one of my strengths is just get shit done, right? Move forward, get it done, and that's it. We're not everybody's like that, and so it was almost like an awakening to go back to the 3-4 years that I was managing a team of salespeople. They're like, "Fuck, I was doing it all wrong for every single person." And of course, the people that got it, the people that were like me, resonated. And they were able to move it forward. And so it's a fascinating thing when you can understand that about your people and more importantly, yourself. And
self-awareness, the most successful people all through time weren't super successful because they're smart, which obviously they are, but they were self-aware. They knew what they did really well and what they didn't do really well. And they hired and surrounded themselves with people that did what they didn't do well.
Right. I think of emotional intelligence, emotional IQ 2.0 in the great book, great path. There's a ton of questions and you can really awaken yourself with that. But, the other thing too, is that as a leader, you need somebody to help you. And I know you mentioned this. I mean, you obviously do coaching and you help businesses get better in their operations, but you yourself as a business coach also have a business coach. And I think that's an often overlooked point that not a lot of people recognize or realize to say, you know what, success leaves clues. And there's people out there that can help you in certain areas of your life to be able to get better. And you have to identify what those areas are for yourself in order to go forward with that. And so finding a coach that resonates with you. And by the way, I'm going to shamelessly plug you here because I think it's kind of a natural segue into this. And so if you're thinking, hey, you know what, operational side of things, customer service, CSRs, all those things, check out her on her website. I believe this redirects to your page, chickenladyspeaks.com. We'll also put these in the bottom of our show notes later. She also has Kathy Nielsen speaks.com /services/leading-the-trades. Check that out. If you want to get in touch with her, she has a few different boot camps and stuff on her website, Kathy Nielsen speaks.com. Just go to there, play around. And of course, if you have any questions, I guess that would be your assistant, Erin H at chickenladyspeaks.com.
Yep. I was trying to do everything, and the best thing I ever did was hire somebody to manage me. So,
but you're also another good talking point. So Erin H at chickenladyspeaks.com, having somebody to help you with your day-to-day operations. And so you can, even I know Tommy Mello, we've been trying to get him on our podcast, and I reached out to him and he's like, yeah, absolutely. I'm in. Talk to my assistant. She manages my work schedule. And so like, that's just, he doesn't need to manage it himself. You don't need to manage your schedule yourself either. Why don't have somebody that can manage your work schedule for you?
Well, and I think a lot of people think it's arrogant, and is why they don't want to, because it sounds really arrogant. Well, talk to my people, right? But the reality is what was happening is I was doing this all day long. And then at night I was sending out contracts and I was booking airfare and I was, and so it was just stupid. And so Erin approached me and she said, I'd really like to talk about being that for you. And it's amazing. She's basically virtual. She lives in Iowa. I'm down south of Kansas City, and actually her sister, I think, would be amazing at it too. If I just don't have the need. So I'm like, if I hear of anybody, but she just deals. I can trust her. She has my login. She has my stuff. She does my payroll. She wears a lot of hats, but it's just all that kind of managing us. And she manages Cass's schedule, the first communication when a customer hits our website. So yeah, having an assistant is not a sign of arrogance. It just makes sense. So I can do what I'm really good at.
But you look at all successful, I mean, maybe not all, I should probably walk that back. The high majority of successful CEOs, successful in high level, they have somebody that helps them manage their day-to-day stuff that they don't need to be involved with.
That's actually what I went to college for. That's what I wanted to be. I didn't want to be the boss. I wanted to be the boss's right-hand person that he counted on for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I say he, and I'm going to get some flack for that, but you know what I mean.
But she in today's world,
the person, whatever that is.
Yep.
But that was my intent and what I went to school for. I just found out I'm really good at managing and leading people, and I dig it, and I worked hard to learn how to do it well. And I was that middle management that had no leadership really training or skills, and so I went out and sought that, and that's why we created Leading the Trades that you brought up a little bit ago, because I'm such an advocate of that. And when you talked about business coach, I do want to say one thing is, so before the show, we talked about my work husband, Joe O'Grady, and him and I used to work together, and then we both went on our own, and Joe started Service Profit Group. But one thing him and I talk about all the time is a coach has to connect for you, and they work for you. So you pay them. So when you hire them, interview them like an employee, because not everybody is going to connect with you. My boot camps, there's other people out there that does CSR training too. And there's room for everybody. It's okay. But you may not connect with them, and you may connect with me, or vice versa. And it's all good. It's, there's room, and just make sure they connect, they make sense for you and or your team. And it may be more than one. It may be somebody for you that's different than for your technicians or something, because they didn't particularly connect. So I think that's important, and make sure they were good at it.
That's exactly what I was going to say, is they'd better be an expert at what it is that you're looking to hire them in for.
Yes.
Right? Like there's so many specialized coaches within this industry that you can bring into your business and help you radically transform your business. But you got to invest in the right ones that fit you and fit your style.
Yeah, and if they say they do it all, maybe they do.
Yeah.
But do they do all of it really good? Like if somebody comes to me for marketing, I go, not my gig, or if somebody wants to work on their culture or their financials, can I do it? Yeah, I can talk mission and vision, and I can do that. Do I dig it? No. Do I want to scroll through all your financials and see where you're not profitable and where you are? I can. I don't want to. Can I help you get the data where you need it to go in a correct fashion consistently? That's my gig. So that's why I connect with other, consulting groups and coaches and pass them on, because that's not my gig.
So that's one of your gigs, is making sure that we're nailing down the data and making sure that Service Titan is working correctly. Right. Yeah.
When I was GM, we did 5 software conversions in 6 years. So I'm just really good at it. Even though I'm not techie, I'm just really good at that. And I speak accounting really well. So I know what they're trying to accomplish. I understand all of it. And so I just happen to be really good at it. And I've been a consultant on Service Titan for 7 years now. Just because I happen to be really good at it. And now they have a whole consulting kind of what are we, CFPs? We're certified something.
I just can't imagine transferring software 5 times in 6 years. Like
Right?
we're moving from one project management platform to another, and it's our 3rd one in a year. I mean, although we didn't really utilize the first one in our business as much as we probably could or should have. But like, I'm looking at this task, I'm like, it's daunting. I can't imagine, like, I don't want to do it again. And so I can only imagine 5 times in 6 years. So we will be remiss if we do not ask our random question generator. So our random question generator is just that. It is a random question that has nothing to do with what we're talking about and can be any answer you so choose. So
Am I going to regret that I said no topic is off the books?
No, there's 4 doors for you to choose. Door number 1, 2, 3, or 4, and behind it therein lies your random question.
Lucky number 3.
Lucky number 3. What's a situation when you look back on you should have just that you didn't do, you should have just went ahead and did it?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a deep one.
That is a deep one.
We could even take it one step further and say maybe you did do it, but you hummed and hawed over it for way too long.
Probably an easy surface level one is I should have jumped into my own business a long time ago. Like I said, I tried to buy Shaw at the time he wanted to sell, but I was very fearful, and I just didn't necessarily want to be a business owner, but I saw value in it. So I think that's probably the biggie for me. I just didn't think I could do it. And I was afraid, like in this situation, working from home, that I would do laundry and I would find reasons not to do work. And my husband says, I knew you would. And I get up every morning, like I do this, I do my hair and my makeup, and I dress every day like I'm going to work. And I think I'm old school. I think if you dress like a slob, you work like a slob, and it's not who I am. And so I think that's it. I would have jumped into company ownership earlier.
Now, do you have and this might be a bad question to ask, with, I mean, everything for you is on Zoom, you're working from home. Is it business on the top and party on the bottom, or relaxation on the bottom, or is it like full business?
So I do wear jeans, which when I go to about 60, 63 shops a year on site, and I rarely wear jeans there unless I'm flying out that same day. So that's not my gig, and I'm a heels person. So yes, I have on jeans and I have on Vans.
Yeah.
My kids tell me I'm the cool mom when I wear my Vans, but
There you go.
but otherwise, no, I like once in a while I wear a sweatshirt or something, but
yeah,
it's who I am.
Right. And I know a lot of folks in our space don't understand, though, don't do work from home. They have the shop. I mean, some guys do when they first start out. There is a power to actually putting on, not just rolling in I mean, there are some people that can, by the way, roll in with track pants and a hoodie, look like they're homeless and continue to work through an entire day. But there's other people that they just can't. They do that and they're like, well, they find themselves upstairs on the couch watching Netflix, and so that goes back to knowing yourself too a little bit, right? Like, okay, what do you need to do? Do you actually need to get ready like you're going to work? Or can you be the other person and roll in, with whatever, but knowing yourself and what's going to actually get you to do the work if you are working from home.
Well, and back to training CSRs and doing role playing and stuff. They hate doing it. I used to call mine from my office, and then I could hear it in their voice. If they're like all slouched down or, sitting up on their feet, women tend to do that. And you can hear it in their voice when they're really casual. I'm not saying you have to be snotty, but just just be professional, be happy, be cheerful. And when you're dressed like a complete slob, for most people, not all people, you can hear it in their voice. They're very casual. There's no urgency. And so it's an old saying. I have no idea who said it, but it always said, dress for the job you want, not the job you have. And I just truly believe that. And I tell in my CSR boot camp, I tell them, if you wake up and you're having a bad day, put your favorite outfit on. I don't care if it's overdressing for where you're going to work. You do that because it will change how you feel about yourself every time. And I don't know if men feel like that.
No, 100%. So when I went to university, I used to wear a suit and a tie to all my midterms and finals. And people are like, why? You're in school. They show up in like fucking sweatpants and a hoodie, and they're like, I was up all night cramming. And I'm like, great. I got like 6 hours of sleep and woke up, had a shower, and put on a suit and a tie. And they're like, well, why? I'm like, because I want to feel good.
Yep.
And when I feel good and I feel that I look good, I'm going to perform at my best. Not always. I mean, I might have failed a couple exams, but hey, that has nothing to do with the attire that I wore and everything about my choices during this semester. But the idea is that if you look good, you feel good, you're going to perform well. And that was one of the things. And people, as soon as I started explaining this to people in university, they're like, oh shit. And next thing you know, what happened at the next final and midterms, guess what? They were also starting to get dressed up too, because they just felt better about themselves when they have that on. So,
well, when I went to college, this ages me, but I went to a business college and we had to dress business casual every day. We couldn't wear jeans or sweatpants, or I, honest to God, don't even own yoga pants. Like it's not, I bought my first pair of flip-flops last summer. So again, I'm not judging those who do, but I know me and I do me really well. And that's not who I am. So yeah, when I went to college, you had to dress up every day for school.
I know some programs that have done that. I know one of the schools that I went to used to try to do that. And I'm like, nope, I'm going to wear what I want to wear.
Totally.
Rebel.
Well, and one of my favorite football players of all time, Deion Sanders, said, if you look good, you feel good, and you feel good, you play good. And if you play good, they pay good. And if they pay good, you eat good. So
yeah, you never see those guys walk into the stadium looking like skull scuzzy.
Yeah, no, never. And especially going into the Super Bowl, which we just saw this last week, right? Everyone's got to dress up. And that's part of even the pregame is watching them walk in and see what they're wearing. So it's but there is something to be said for that, right? And making sure that you're putting on your best attire, best dress, but also just your physiology, right? Like you said, when you're sitting, when you're slouching, right? You hear that in your voice. One thing I always used to coach my reception team on was, smile when you dial, right? When you're on the phone, you've got to put a smile on your face because you can hear that through the other end, right? Really simple thing. It's a subtle thing, but it makes all the difference. So,
yeah, it's really old school to put a mirror on your desk, but it works. It works. And I still advocate it.
No, 100%. And you look at and we're talking, I know we kind of got on the Zoom tangent here, but even when you're in your office, you as the owner, what's the bar that you're setting for your team? We had Peter and Alicia Green on from Go Green a little while ago.
I've known them a long time.
Yeah, great, phenomenal people. And they were on our show, gosh, almost a year ago now, I want to say. But he had on he had on a dress shirt, and I think he wore dress shirt and jeans, and that was his thing. And one of his team members, if I'm recalling the story correctly, one of his team members had called him out for he wants to be the owner and raising the bar, but he wasn't dressing to the occasion in his office. And if he wanted to lead by example, he needed to dress by example in order for his team to follow suit. And he wasn't talking like suit and tie. I know that some people want to do the suit and tie, but so his was simple as a really nice dress shirt and jeans and a pair of nice shoes, right? And in the HVAC space, that can go a long ways, even if you just do that. Because if you're going to do that as the owner and you're in the office, you're not out in the field, you're not on the tools, you're in there all the time, and you want your CSRs to also smile when they dial and to have that feeling. Well, you've got to elevate yourself as a leader in order to be able for them to elevate themselves to that same status.
And I think that goes for their space too.
Yes.
Like my space is pretty clean. I showed you guys earlier my 4-foot chicken in my space, but it's the same way when I walk into offices in shops. And I've been to all kinds, from fancy buildings they built to a garage. It doesn't matter. I don't care what that is for them. But what I do care about is if you walk in and there's boxes piled all over around everybody, there's parts here and there, it's just messy. Who wants to dress better to that? So it's like when my husband, when, different times he's looking for a different job, I'll say, well, what about so-and-so? Oh no, their vans are crappy, because those techs see each other at the, all over the place, especially at gas stations and stuff. So why do you want your image to be that? And it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be hard or fancy, but just hold yourself to a higher level, no matter whether you're a CSR or a dispatcher or a technician or an owner. It doesn't matter. Just hold yourself to the level that you want people to know you by.
Yeah. Well, I love what Tony Robbins says about this, and you will get what you tolerate. Right?
Yes.
And if you really want to have more, be more, do more, at the end of the day, you just have to raise your standards. And it sounds so simple, but you will always get the level of expectations of your peer group and of yourself. So if you raise your standards of what it is that you expect of yourself, naturally your peer group will come up to that level as well. They're going to try and pull you down a little bit, right, to test you, to see if you really want to go after that. And that's going to be your minimum standard. But eventually they're going to change as well, or you will change the people that you surround yourself with.
And I think owners are afraid to set a standard. Like I had a whole dress code, and it wasn't hard, and you don't have to spend more to dress better. But if they look like they're cleaning out the garage on Saturday, don't wear that at work.
Right.
It's pretty simple. I had particular dress for women because there's a lot of men in the shop, so we're not wearing provocative clothing. I had that defined. So I think everybody wants to know what the rules are. And then when they test those rules, know what the consequences are, have that set. Here's the expectation, here's the consequences and or rewards. And everybody wants to know that. I had 3 non-negotiables for every position in the company I ran. And everybody knew what those were. They were defined for each position. And so just have that set. And then if you're not good at holding people accountable, you have something to hold them accountable to that's not personal.
Do you mind if we ask what the non-negotiables were?
Well, again, it was different for every position, right? But I do a ton of tech training. And so here for my techs, it was they have to dispatch and arrive. I need to know where their time's going so I can hold my dispatcher accountable to their day. They need to get the equipment if they walk in the house, because that's marketing. And they need to do those other things like wear their booties, park in whatever those other key processes are. But that's my non-negotiable for techs. The CSRs, it was answer the phone by the 3rd ring. You don't use words like don't, won't, can't. We have some non-negotiables, and here, this is what you do. And if you don't, here's the consequences, or here's the reward.
Well, and that again comes back to culture, which you mentioned at the beginning as well, right? And when you set that standard and that's your culture within your business, you can hold people accountable to that. I love it.
Yes. I think accountability in our industry is one of the hardest things people have. When you asked me earlier about a tech turning business owner, I think that's the hardest thing for them is to hold people that used to be their peers accountable, because they didn't want to be held accountable when they were a tech. That's really hard for them.
Yep. Well, and it's hard to, again, expect something of someone else when you won't do it for yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. I love it. This conversation has been fantastic, Kathy. Thank you so much for joining us today. We do have one final question for you.
Okay.
And that is, what is one question you wished people would ask you more, but they don't?
That is a great question. I think probably is, what can we do to grow the middle? So everybody knows they can grow CSRs. Everybody knows the owners do their thing. And there's ways to grow the middle, like leading the trades or other things out there, but nobody asks, how do we grow the middle? And growing the middle is, it doesn't have to be expensive, but again, that movement that makes a huge impact. So that's probably one of them. How do I grow the middle?
And so how would they grow the middle?
Again, for me, it's teaching and training. And probably one of the things I fail at is plugging the things that I do very often. And so I always feel like that's all I'm doing is plugging in, and that's not the intent. But we put a CSR that was amazing into an office manager role. We put a tech that was amazing into a service manager role, and most of them fail. And a lot of people fail because they're afraid of not being needed. So process and procedures, I'm a freak about that. I'm speaking in Ohio next month at PHCC on how to create process and procedures. So there's another saying, I'm going to get it wrong and who said it, but about teaching yourself out of a job. So when we do that, those middle people, we need to teach them how to grow people into that, right? So maybe they grow out of that job, but then they grow into the next, because the bigger your company is, the more layers of people you have.
Right.
So training.
No, and I think
training.
Totally. Well, and I think that mistake that a lot of people make, and it's natural, right? Where you have this A player who's incredible at what they do, it's natural to want to move them into that leadership role. When the reality is the B players, maybe even the C players in that role would be a better leader, because that's the thing that lights them up, right? When you look at, and again, we'll use the NFL as an example because the Super Bowl just happened. Sean McVay. Sean McVay, 36 years old, he has players that were the same age as him, right? And yet he's the one that's leading the team.
And if you look at the NFL, how many head coaches played in the NFL? It's very few.
Absolutely. And if they did play, they weren't very good.
Yeah.
Right. They might have made it, and then they were, a special teams player. They kicked around in the practice squad for a little while, but they geeked out on the game. And so they became a coach, and then they were amazing at elevating others around them. And that's really what leaders are great at.
Yeah.
It's elevating the bare minimum, that base of what someone's capable of doing.
Yeah. And you have to know that that guy that was amazing in the field, he may not even want to be a service manager, but people keep telling him that's the next step and he should want it. And he really might not want that if you really had a good conversation.
Absolutely. No, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us, Kathy. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your knowledge and all of your success secrets with our listeners. We appreciate it.
I'm happy to share my chicken nuggets. I love that, Ryan. Ryan just came on board officially Monday, so that's funny. Nice. He's always got chicken comments for me.
Wasn't he the first rooster to join?
He is. Yeah. He's called the chicken counter because he's focusing on inventory for people. So
nice.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, welcome to the team, Ryan.
Yes. And thank you, Kathy, for taking the time out of your day.
Thank you again. I appreciate it.
Cheers.
Thanks for watching another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, two quick things. First off, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing, if you took one tiny bit of information out of the show, no matter how big, no matter how small, all we ask is for you to introduce this show to one person in your contacts list. That's it. That's all. One person. So they too can unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Until next time, cheers.